All right, what's going on, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Is it safe for me to say that Miguel Cotto is the biggest hustler in boxing at this point? The biggest active hustler in boxing? Because, the WBC, if you don't know, the WBC strips Miguel Cotto of his middleweight title, effective today, okay? There's been 2 articles on this, okay? At first, I saw the Boxing Scene article where they didn't really give any details, it just said, according to the WBC, Miguel Cotto failed to follow the rules and regulation of the WBC, and they will be stripping him effective immediately today, okay? Didn't really give any details on why, all right? We all know that Golovkin was his mandatory after he fought Daniel Gill, and didn't know why. So when I first read that article, I was like, all right, why is this happening 4 days before the fight? Why are they doing this right now? They already sanctioned this fight. This fight was scheduled 4 or 5 months ago, and we already know this fight was happening. Why schedule it now? Why strip him now? And then later, Dan Rayfield, Dan Rayfield for ESPN, he has an article on ESPN basically saying that he's got word that, according to the WBC, they are stripping Miguel Cotto because he failed to, or he refused to pay the sanctioning fees for the title, $300,000. And according to the WBC, Miguel Cotto refused because Miguel Cotto thought that it was too much to pay $300,000 because of the fact that he's already paid $800,000 for step-aside money to not fight Golovkin after Cotto beat Gill, okay? Because Golovkin was his mandatory after Cotto beat Gill, all right? The winner of that fight was a mandatory. Their mandatories with Gennady Golovkin, okay? So Cotto is like, I already paid you $800,000. Why do I have to pay a $300,000 fee for this title? All right? And this is the reason why they are stripping him today. According to Dan Rayfield as well, he's saying that the deadline was yesterday, Monday, okay? And today is Tuesday. Even though the fight is in a few days. Now, Canelo Alvarez, he has a chance to still win the title. If he wins this fight, he will be the lineal WBC champion, right? So, obviously, he paid his sanctioning fees or, whatever. Now, for the record, $300,000 is 1%. It's a lot of money to you and me, but it's only 1% of Miguel Cotto's purse for this fight. $30 million. $300,000 is only 1%. All right? Now, I see why Miguel Cotto's not paying it. You know why? Because he wasn't going to fight Triple G anyway. He never had any intentions of fighting Golovkin. You remember the post-fight video? Do I look like a middleweight? He doesn't want to fight Golovkin. A guy that pays a guy nearly $1 million to not fight him doesn't want to fight them. $800,000 to get out of a fight, he doesn't want to fight Golovkin. So I see why he didn't pay the $300,000 fee, because he knew he was getting stripped anyway. He knew if he won this fight, he wasn't going to fight Golovkin, he would get stripped. He knew if he lost the fight, he would lose it to Canelo anyway. So why pay the extra $300,000? Why pay $800,000? And I see why he paid the $800,000. Because he wasn't going to get $30 million to fight Gennady Golovkin, and his chances of winning that fight was a lot slimmer. So he paid $800,000 to Gennady Golovkin to step aside for he could get this Canelo fight, because it is a bigger fight. Outside of Mayweather and Pacquiao, this is the biggest fight as far as pay-per-view buys that could be made in boxing. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. So that $800,000 was nothing, because you're going to be able to get that back. You're getting $30 million just for this one fight alone. I think Cotto's purse has never really been over like the $10 million, $12 million range, per fight. So it made sense for Canelo to pay the 800,000 step aside money to fight Canelo. Because if he fought Golovkin first and then try to fight Canelo later, chances are if he lost to Golovkin, he wouldn't have any leverage in fighting Canelo as far as negotiations is concerned. And this is why I call Miguel Cotto a hustler, because I see it. I see why all of this has happened. And I don't know if Dan Rayfield, I don't know if he said it's nothing's confirmed. It's coming through him. I'm sure he has good sources. There's no reason why not to believe. I tell you, I believe this article more than the boxing scene one that really didn't say anything. But it makes sense. If you really put it in perspective, it really makes sense. Because we already know that Cotto had no intentions of fighting Golovkin. And I feel like he played the WBC. I feel like he played Canelo. He played Canelo because he used the title that he knew he wasn't keeping as leverage in the negotiations. Yeah, we could make the argument that Miguel Cotto has done more and he's been in more pay-per-views. Yeah, Canelo had that one pay-per-view with Floyd where he made more money. But outside of that, Cotto has consistently been better when it came to pay-per-view buys. So he used himself as an A side. He forced this catch weight. He got the bigger purse. He's getting 75% of the purse here. He used the title as leverage as well. Like, listen, I've done more pay-per-views and I'm the middleweight champion, and he used that as leverage. But he knew he wasn't going to keep the belt. So Canelo gets played. The WBC gets played too because, they've been entertaining Cotto for long enough. Even after he fought Sergio Martinez, how long did it take for him to finally get into the ring again? They tried to get on a fight with Canelo last year, and that didn't fall through. So, I think they all entertained it. Everybody entertained it because they wanted to make this Cotto-Canelo match. They wanted to make this match because it's going to draw in so much money or whatever. But Cotto played them, and honestly, I don't really think he cares he's got stripped. I don't think he really cares. So, and the only person that really benefits besides Cotto is Gennady Golovkin. Because Golovkin gets paid $800,000 to sit home and not fight. And regardless of who wins this fight, he doesn't have to go and he doesn't have to be forced into fighting either one of them at a 155 catch weight anymore. Because he's the mandatory. And being that Golovkin is the mandatory, you can't force a catch weight on someone. It's not a voluntary match. It's a mandatory match. It's a unification match. They don't have to force. He doesn't have to agree to the 155 catch weight, which he didn't. He already said that if he fights Cotto or Canelo, it will be at the 160-pound weight limit. The only person that he said he would ever have came down for was Floyd Mayweather. He said that at one point. But he wouldn't come down to fight these guys. He doesn't have to. And if Cotto or Canelo, if Canelo were to win this fight, because Canelo could still win and be the champion, but if Canelo doesn't agree to fight Golovkin at 160, then they will strip Canelo of the title as well. And Triple G will either have to fight for the title when it becomes vacant, or because he's the interim title champion, he will just get the title. I don't know. I don't know the stipulations on that, on whether he probably still has to fight for the title. The word that I'm getting is that he might be fighting Toriano Johnson next. But anyway, he's going to eventually probably be the WBC champion, regardless if he fight Canelo or not. Okay? And according to De La Hoya and Team Canelo, it doesn't sound like they will be fighting Golovkin because they don't want to move up to 160. Even though Canelo is, draining himself to get down to 155, but that's another story. So anyway, last point I want to make about this whole thing is being that they negotiated on this during the negotiations, and being that Canelo or Cotto used this belt as leverage, in negotiations, and they basically agreed that they're fighting for the WBC championship. Since they're not fighting for that, and well, they are fighting for it, Canelo is, but since Cotto is not defending this title now, what does that mean as far as what they agreed upon in contract? Does Canelo still have to fight with this 155 catchweight? Now, I know he could still come in overweight. He could come in weighing 159.9 pounds, and he probably will have to pay these penalty fees or whatever to Cotto for coming in overweight, because they agreed to fight at 155. But since Cotto is no longer defending the title, doesn't that kind of mess up what they agreed on, during negotiations of the fight? How does that work at this point? My boy USA MVP, he actually called me today. You guys remember I used to do videos with him. He has a YouTube channel. We used to do videos, and he called me today and said, listen, now that Cotto's not defending his title and he's not recognized as the middleweight champion, does Canelo need to still agree on this catch weight and stuff? Does he need to agree on that? I don't know how that works. In my opinion, I still think since they agreed to fight at that catch weight, he would still have to fight at 155 unless he wants to get penalized by coming in overweight. But as far as winning the title, he should be able to still, if he were to come in at 159.9 pounds or 160, he should still be able to win the championship if he were to win the fight. That's what I think, me personally. But I don't know. All right, so anyway, that's the end of this video. Let me know what you guys think. Leave comments and make sure you guys hit subscribe. Peace.